Ben
Tamam, başlıyorum. Tamam. Sayın izleyicilerimiz, bugün konferanslar serimizin 5. günündeyiz. Öncelikle içinde bulunduğumuz gün olması hasebiyle hepinizin 1 Mayıs Emek ve Dayanışma Gününüzü kutlarım. Türkiye İstatistik Haftası ve Türkiye İstatistik Kurumu'nun 94. kuruluş yıl dönümü nedeniyle TÜİK Mensupları Derneği olarak organizasyonunu üstlendiğimiz istatistik konferansları serilerinin bugün sonuncu günündeyiz. Pazartesi gününden başlamak üzere muhterem akademisyenlerimiz ve kurumumuzun güzide uzmanlarının çeşitli konularda sunumlarını dinlettik. Çok istifade ettik. Kimi zaman ufak tefek aksaklar yaşansa da izleyicilerimizin programımızı izlemeleri için elimizden geleni yaptık. Sürçülisan ettiysek affola. Kıymetli izleyicilerimiz, programımızın bu son günü için moderatörlük görevi TÜMDER adına bana tevdi edildi. Kendimden kısaca bahsedeyim isterseniz. TÜİK Mensupları Derneği Yönetim Kurulu üyesiyim. Kurumumuzda Uluslararası İlişkiler Daire Başkanı'nın TÜİK uzmanı olarak görev yapmaktayım. Dilerseniz bugünkü programımızı da kısaca bir aktarmak istiyorum. Evvela Slovenya'dan Sayın Irina Orešnik, idari verilerin istatistik üretiminde kullanımı üzerine bir sunum gerçekleştirecek. Kurumsal çalışmalarımızda bir hayli önem atfettiğimiz, son birkaç yılda gerçekleştirdiğimiz dönüşümlerde önemli bir role sahip olan bu konunun çok ilgi çekeceğine şüphe yok. 15 yıl Slovenya İstatistik Ofisi'nde çalışmış olan Orešnik, bu sürenin 9 yıllık periyodunda Tarım İstatistikleri Daire Başkanı olarak görev yapmış ve özellikle bu esnada Slovenya'nın AB'ye katılımı için tarım alanında gerekli olan metodoloji ve veri toplama çalışmalarını yürütmüştür. Bu bilgi de onun ne ölçüde tecrübeli olduğunu yeterince ifade ediyor. Umarım yapacağı sunumdan izleyiciler olarak yeterince faydalanabiliriz. Son olarak dünü bugünü yarınıyla istatistik konferansları programımız derneğimizin Sayın Başkanı Furkan Metin'in yapacağı kapanış konuşmasıyla sona erecektir. Müsaadenizle bu aşamadan sonra Sayın Irina Orešnik'i takdim edeceğim. Bu sebeple İngilizce artık anlatacağım. Devam edeceğim. Hello Irina, great to see you again. I hope all is best for you. Today, with your presentation, our Statistical Conferences Series program is gonna be over. By taking this opportunity, I would like to thank you on behalf of our association that have organized the event. We appreciate your acceptation of our offer to take part in the program as the speaker. Before moving into your fruitful and quite beneficial presentation, please let me give a concise information about your professional experience to the audience. Ms. Irina Orešnik has wide experience in agricultural statistics, both in methodology and in management. She worked for 15 years in the Statistical Office of Republic of Slovenia, 9 years of which she was head of the Department of Agricultural Statistics. As head of a department preparing for EU accession, she dealt with all the methodological and data collection tasks related to agricultural statistics. Consequently, she gained extensive experience in management, methodological, and implementation issues related to agriculture statistics. Since 2004, Ms. Orešnik has worked as freelance consultant on agricultural statistics and acted as a project leader or an expert in many projects under IPA multi-beneficiary and National Program on Statistical Cooperation, TAEX projects, and UN-supported projects. Most of the projects she was involved were taking place in Eastern Balkan. Among others, she worked in Turkey, supporting Turkstat in harmonization of crop and livestock statistics. She has supporting several countries in preparation of agricultural census: Kosovo, Montenegro, Serbia, Northern Cyprus, Lebanon, and introduction of EU harmonized system of crop statistics. Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, Croatia, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and in Northern Macedonia. Finally, Ms. Orešnik is a farmer managing the goat farm and 30 years together with her husband. She was for 10 years the president of Slovene Farm Cheese Making Association, where she organized all necessary trainings of the farmers in respect to cheese technology, food safety, and other related issues. She regularly holds the seminar for farmers on safe processing of the milk on farms. For more than 20 years, she is involved in training the cheese consumers on She's carrying out regularly the seminars in this respect, as well as in author of 2 books related to cheese. Thank you again, dear Irina. We all are ready to watch your presentation. Let's get started. The floor is yours, please.
So thank you very much for the Turkish Association of the Statisticians for this invitation. It's a great honor for me to participate in this conference. Actually, I was free to choose the topic. And since coming from Slovenia, which is one of the most advanced countries in using administrative sources in statistics apart from the Nordic countries, and since the use of administrative sources, particularly nowadays in agriculture statistics, is the reality, and it's basically most of the agriculture statistics in Europe are now based on administrative sources, and this is also kind of road where path in which direction the agriculture statistics is going. I have decided to say something about the good and the bad side, the opportunities and the limitations of using administrative sources in agriculture statistics and beyond that, so in general. Let me load my presentation because I think it will be easier for the audience to follow if they also see the text, and then I will start. Thank you. Okay. First, a few words about what do we consider as administrative data. Basically, administrative data are in most of the cases data records collected by different government agencies. They are for different purposes like tax data, personal data, location of the house, business data, and so on. In most of the cases, the purpose is to have control over some phenomena, like number of people in the country, migration, number and income of businesses in the country, distribution and control of supports for farmers, wine production, and so on. When we talk about agriculture statistics, the most common administrative sources used nowadays in the statistics are subsidy records, bovine register, and possibly also other livestock registers, depending on the country, vineyard register, and so on. How this data can be used in statistics? I think in general there is a long tradition in using the administrative data as a directly as aggregates. We also use for long data for verification of the survey data and also for imputation in case of missing data. However, for me, the most important uses are the use for establishing and updating of the sampling frames and their use as a replacement of data collection. I will concentrate on my presentation on these last two topics. So first, if we use the administrative data for the sampling frame, what do we expect from the sampling frame? We expect that they are complete as possible and they are as reliable as possible. They have to enable identification of the units of observation, for instance, pig farmers, wine farmers, and so on. They need to enable to contact the units by different means. So we need the addresses, phone, emails, other possible contact details. And of course, it is a bonus if they include also reliable data on variables used in stratifications, because with this, we can have efficient sampling designs. That means that we can reach the good precision of the results with small or smaller number of units surveyed. What has to be considered when we use administrative data as a source of updating of sampling frames? By updating, we are trying to manage three main components of the frames. We want to prevent undercoverage. We want to update the variables used in identification of the units of the sample population. And we want to update the variables for the stratification. And we want to maintain the contact variables up to date so that we can always contact the farmers, the businesses, whoever we are surveying through this sample frame. However, if the updating source is not reliable and process the unique identification of the same in the sampling frame and source,
Please, you can continue.
okay, thank you very much. So I will start again with what are the issues when we use the administrative data in building of the sampling frame. So as I said, the problem might be under coverage because the administrative source can use a different threshold. For instance, we want to cover farms bigger than 1 hectare, but the subsidies are paid only for the farms which are bigger than 3 hectares, and the similar. There's another reason for undercoverage, that units might not have motivation to register themselves in the administrative register, and the reasons might be all kinds. Many times, this undercoverage by countries is considered as limiting problems to start to use the register as a source for the frame or also in other uses. However, first of all, the undercoverage can be measured. And in case we suppose there is undercoverage, it has to be measured using the standard statistical methods, such as area frame sampling. If we have this undercoverage, we usually have to complement the administrative source with other statistical sources. For instance, in case of agriculture statistics, it can be complemented with full coverage surveys such as agriculture census or population census, or by using the combined list and area frame sampling techniques. I will switch now to the second topic which I want to present and discuss is use of administrative data as a replacement of data collection. So when the data in which we are interested in statistics are already collected by another administration body in the country, it is worthwhile to try to use them. More than that, in some countries, statistical office has an obligation to use them when they exist. This is typical for the Nordic countries. First, the countries has to clarify whether certain data already exist, or If not, then they can introduce the survey. Otherwise, they are obliged to use the administrative source. There are two main reasons for that. First of all, we want to reduce the response burden, at least partial, if all units are not included. And from the budget point of view, we want to reduce the data collection cost by reuse of the data already collected. But what are the conditions when we can do that? Use of administrative data as a replacement of data collection is possible when in administrative source exists data on the level of observation unit, for instance, farm, business, person. And when the concepts and definitions are comparable to the one which are used in official statistics. The data sources has to have the variables which enable linkage of the data. This should enable identification of the same units in the statistical and administrative source. The data, of course, the data in administrative source have to be reliable, and the reliability has to be checked by statisticians. Data has to be available in the relevant format, in the format that we can use them, and they have to be available in time. We cannot use the data if they are only available 1-2 years after when we would need the data. As I said before, to have the data available for all units, like to have the full coverage, is a bonus, but not a precondition. The data can be always complemented by statistical surveys of the missing units. In that case, it is good to know in advance for which units the data are available or not available. What else is important? Legislation. Legislation should grant use of administrative data for statistical purposes and give the statistician active position in preparation of the new registers and databases. As much is also important the public approval. It is important that the public appreciates and understands the benefits of using registered sources for statistical purposes. However, in order to implement this, we need a very good cooperation within national administration that includes protocols between different bodies. This is really essential. On top of that, data protection has to be guaranteed, both legal and technical, and proactive position of the statistical office. They need to be involved already in the process of the preparation of the new registers, databases, and related legislation. It is very important because usually the variables, the definitions might be slightly different in administrative source than statistical, and with proper discussion and let's say effort, things has to be harmonized to the point that statistical offices can use the data. If the statistical offices are not included in the preparation, many times it happens that there are slight differences in definitions, and moreover, many times there are problems with linkage, with matching. If the administrative source does not include from the start enough of the unique identifications which can be used for linkage of the data, then the source will be not possible to use if it has the data which are relevant.
Irina, there is a problem in your voice. It's coming slightly, your voice.
Do you hear me now?
Would you please seste problem var gibi. Benimkinde mi acaba? Tamam. Okay, Irina, please continue. No problem. It's okay.
Okay. Also very important are the guidelines for statisticians on how to use the administrative sources. Many countries, they have them, but it's I consider very important that statisticians know how to evaluate and how to work with the administrative sources in order not to introduce the errors or unreliable data into the official statistics by using the administrative sources. So what are the main limitations? So one of the main limitation can be a lack of the common identifiers. If we do not have the common identifiers, we cannot link the administrative and statistical sources. There could be insufficient reliability of administrative data. The problem can be weak interinstitutional cooperation, not adequate legislation, or reluctance of its implementation. From my experience, many countries have their statistical legislation, statistical law enable the use of administrative sources, but there is reluctance of its implementation in administration. So despite of the legal possibility, the things are not going as they should. Then data can be not available in time. And one of the big issue of the use of administrative sources is that source can change or disappear in a short notice because it's related to certain policy needs. The statistics is not as a first priority. And in parallel to that, with intensive use of administrative data, the statistical knowledge, such as sampling, extrapolation, data editing, disappear, and it is difficult to gain it back in a short time. I explained before that Slovenia is kind of the front line of use administrative data, and I would like to say just a few words why this is like that. What were the preconditions that we are in a, let's say, good situation concerning the use of administrative data? So in Slovenia, the register-based statistics started in the 70s. Basically, we were following the Nordic model, which is register-oriented statistics. A set of registers was initiated by statistical office, like Register of Population and Register of Territorial Units and Business Register, where the unique identification numbers were introduced. These unique identification numbers introduced in the registers in statistics are used in almost all administrative registers and databases in Slovenia. Legislation providing statistics to use all administrative data for free, and statistics is entitled to participate in the development of the new registers and databases. We have very strict confidentiality rules, including legal, technical, and physical protection of the data. There are established protocols between administrative bodies on the data exchange. And last but not least, inherited administration culture from the time of Austrian-Hungarian Empire, as well as assets as land cadastre, also contribute very much to the success of use of administrative sources in Slovenia. As concerned the agriculture statistics, Slovenia partly replaced crop surveys as early as in 2001 with the administrative data, and currently majority of agriculture statistics in Slovenia are based on administrative sources. Where is the way forward? I would say that current time does not give us opportunity to decide on use of administrative data or not. Basically, it only asks us to think how to use them. In any case, the reliability of the data is a precondition. However, there is always a question if independent statistical survey can provide more reliable data. This also has to be considered. When only part of units are included in the administrative source or only part of the required variables, then use of combined surveys or multiple sources is a solution. The new technology, as for instance, geo-coordinates of the farmer's residence, can be used as a new tool for matching the data if other alternatives with unique identification numbers are not available. Sorry. And a few final comments. I would say that use of administrative data as a replacement of data collection does not mean less work for statisticians, but it only requires other type of work. It is a process taking a lot of time, devotion, methodological work, and cooperation. Citizens does not easily distinguish between different administrative bodies and are reluctant to provide the same data twice or even more time. But at the same time, they are more and more sensitive in respect to possible misuse of their data. The awareness is growing with use of the social media, even the concerns can be very contradictory. On one side, as you know, we can disclose many of our personal data, photos, and we don't care. But on the other side, we are, through that, somehow becoming more careful what the country is doing or what the administration is doing with our data. And least but not last, the crisis situation like we have now, the COVID-19, make the use of administrative data as a source to replace the data collection in statistical surveys even more relevant. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready for the questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irina. It was truly great and highly instructive presentation. I hope our colleagues have benefited as much as possible. Our audience, if you have any question to ask, please write. And we are waiting for your questions, if you have any. Now, it seems there aren't any questions.
Okay.
Our audience, if you have any question to ask, please write. And we are waiting for your questions, if you have any. From seems there aren't any questions. Okay. There are some questions, a few questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm listening.
How much important is the definition of threshold? Mr. Kenan Orhan asked questions. How we should determine a threshold?
I mean, usually depending on the survey, the threshold is defined, let's say, particularly in the EU context, in the legislation. However, it can be that from the national purposes, we need to survey also the units below the threshold which is defined in the legislation. So how to define it? Usually we use the databases available and we try to do some simulations in order to understand what is our coverage in terms of number of units. In case of agriculture, it's also, we are usually interested how much land which is utilized in the country is used and how much livestock is covered by a certain threshold. In agriculture, we try to, how to say, distinguish between the economically important units and economically not important units, or the units which basically produce for their own consumption and their products are not coming to the market. We can use the physical thresholds as area of, in case of agriculture, area of land or livestock, but we can also use economical threshold like standard output in case of agriculture.
Okay.
I hope I answered this question. Thank you.
Okay, we hope to. One more question from our colleagues, Bilal Kurban. He asks, could you say a few words about the activities we should carry out in order to improve metadata of admin data holders?
Okay, I cannot say I'm really a specialist of the metadata. However, from the user point of view, I mean, statisticians who use this data, it is important to understand for each of the unit in the, let's say, statistical farm register, what is the source of the data, when it was last update, who updated it. Let's say these are the three main issues. It's also very good to keep the previous, let's say, the history, so to know also what was happening with the same farm, with the same units in the past. But these are the main metadata we need to keep. So the source of the data, the time when it was updated, and by whom it was updated, or by what, which, yes, by whom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we don't have any more questions. Okay. Thank you again. Hope to see you again, you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for listening me, and thank you very much for the interest expressed by the question. Thank you. Have a good, very nice weekend for all of you. And we have holidays here. I hope you also have some holidays now in Turkey.
It's really a pleasure for us to watch your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will share the presentation with your office also through the email. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Şimdi sözü derneğimizin başkanı Sayın Furkan Metin'e veriyorum. Furkan Bey buyurun.
Merhabalar. Sesim geliyor mu?
Geliyor.
Başlıyorum o zaman. Değerli akademisyenlerimiz, kamu ve özel sektör çalışanlarımız, kıymetli istatistikçiler ve Türkiye İstatistik Kurumu'nun güzide çalışanları, çevrim içi platformlardan canlı olarak TÜİK Mensuplar Derneği tarafından organize edilen İstatistik Haftası'nda, dünü, bugünü ve yarını ve istatistik konferanslarında bu programa göstermiş olduğunuz ilgi ve kıymetli katılımlarınız için teşekkür ediyoruz TÜİK Mensuplar Derneği olarak. Yapmış olduğumuz etkinlikler yaklaşık YouTube kanalımız üzerinden 4000 kişiye ulaştı. Yani bu zorlu günlerde 4000 kişinin hayatına az da olsa renk katmaya çalıştık hep birlikte. I also would like to give my regards to dear Irana Oresnik for taking part in the Statistic Week of Turkey. The event organized by the members of Turkstat Association. Thank you Irana for joining us. Program içeriğine bilhassa konuşmacı olarak değerli katkılarını sağlayan akademisyenlerimiz ve uzmanlarımıza, başta ilk gün Reşat hocamıza, Sayın Profesör Doktor Reşat Kasap, Sayın Profesör Doktor İlkay Savcı, Sayın Profesör Doktor Yaprak Arzu Özdemir, Profesör Doktor Fikri Gökpınar, Profesör Doktor Birdal Şenoğlu, Profesör Doktor Ali Serhan Koyuncugil, Doktor Onur Toka, Sayın TÜİK uzmanımız Kadir Korhan Babadağ ve yine Sayın TÜİK uzmanımız Bilal Kurban. Aynı zamanda yine katılım sağlayan, İstatistik Haftası'na katılım sağlayan Profesör Doktor Hüseyin Tatlıdil ve istatistik uzmanı Oğuzhan Akyıldırım'a, ayrıca mükerreren Sayın İrana Oresnik'e katılımları, değerli katkılarından ötürü teşekkür ediyorum. Ayrıca bu yayının gerçekleşmesinde emeğe geçen arkada görünmez kahramanlarımıza da kurum personellerimize de ayrıca teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. 25 Nisan 1926'da kurulan Türkiye İstatistik Kurumu'nun bu günde kurulması münasebetiyle 25 Nisan İstatistik Günü olarak kutlanıyordu. Ve biz Türkiye İstatistik Kurumu'na başladığımız bundan 10 yıl evvele kadar bu etkinlikler, İstatistik Haftası etkinlikleri devam etmişti. Hep arzumuz, niyetimiz bu etkinliklerin yeniden hayata geçirilmesiydi. Türkiye İstatistik Haftası'nın yeniden hayata geçirilmesiydi. Tüm hazırlıklarımız yapılmıştı TÜİK Mensuplar Derneği ve TÜİK tarafından ama Covid nedeniyle bunları gerçekleştiremedik. Ama bu kadar hazırlık boşa gitmesin diye de çok kısa bir süre içerisinde, bir hafta kadar bir süre içerisinde tüm hocalarımız, arkadaşlarımız büyük emek harcadılar gerçekten. Bu yayınlar sizlere ulaştı. İnşallah önümüzdeki yıl bunları hep birlikte yüz yüze kurumumuzda yine değerli